Hi, everybody. Welcome to our first Fridays. I think we are live on Instagram and on StreamYard. Um, my name's Katherine. I'm an associate attorney here at McEntee Law Group. As people start joining, please add your questions to the comments. If you see me looking over here, I've got a couple of screens happening and also checking if you guys are asking me any questions. But this is our monthly live event where we go over recent immigration updates and answer any questions that you may have. Hi. As always, we're providing general information today, which should not be taken as legal advice. I'm a lawyer. I'm not your lawyer, though, and everyone's case is different. So please schedule a consultation to discuss your specific situation. As always, you should only ever be taking legal advice from two people, your attorney or accredited representative. Okay, today we're going to go over some recent changes in immigration law and policy. Namely, I'm going to discuss the federal court ruling on DACA, the migrant busing crisis, the refugee cap, automatic extensions for green cards, and the DV lottery. Then I'll answer some of the questions that we received this week from our different platforms. And if you didn't get a chance to send in your question ahead of time, don't worry, please put it into the comments and we will get to them. Okay, we will get started. So first up is DACA, the DACA ruling on Wednesday. The Fifth Circuit Court ruled that DACA program is illegal. However, they're allowing those that are already enrolled in it to renew their participation when the time comes to renew. So as a reminder, DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. It protects nearly 600,000 young people from deportation. It allows them to work in the United States, and it must be renewed every 2 years. And so this issue of DACA has been going back and forth in the courts for years now. And most recently, what the Fifth Circuit did was send the case back to the lower courts for review, where there's not much hope that the judge there will rule for the program because he hasn't in the past. And what does this mean if you have DACA or if you want DACA? Basically, the DACA program itself remains intact. So the criteria that allow you to qualify, the ability to work, those are intact. The fact that DACA is not really a status, that's still true. So it allows recipients to remain and be considered what we call lawfully present, but it's not technically a status. And so those who have had DACA in the past and have renewed it on time, they can continue to do that. However, it's still the case that if you've never had DACA before, you cannot have your case approved. And what I mean by that is you can submit your case to the USCIS, but they cannot act on it. What this also means is that we still need a permanent solution, and that requires Congress to act to protect dreamers. The next item I have is the migrant busing crisis. So if you followed this, it's been kind of all over the news that Republican governors, including Texas Governor Greg Abbott and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, have transported more than 10,000 migrants to Democratic-run cities in an attempt to bring attention to the number of migrants that are presenting themselves at the southern border. In our opinion, as a firm, this is a dehumanizing act that uses people for political theater, really. And so immigration advocates are exploring as many options as they can to take legal action. The reason being that many of the people that were on these buses didn't know where they were going, but were promised, the possibility of safety or of a work permit, when in reality, those cities that they were sent to do not have those support systems in place. The next item I have is that President Biden authorized 125,000 person ceiling for refugees in this next fiscal year. And so this is a positive and a symbolic change that's really different from the last administration. During the last presidency, we hit an all-time low in terms of numbers of refugees allowed in. I think it was 15,000. And so this is important because this is 125,000 is obviously a significant jump. However, there are issues here as well. For example, last year, while the US set their maximum cap at 125,000, only about 25,000 refugees were actually let into the country. So that's only about 20% of the allocated spots. And over the past year, the Biden administration has deployed hundreds more personnel to these refugee process centers overseas, increased the number of local resettlement offices, and tried to expedite this refugee process. But I think in reality, the government has really struggled to rebuild the resettlement system that was devastated both by the last administration, but also by the COVID-19 pandemic. And so I just wanted to note too that these numbers that I've shared, they don't include asylum seekers, they don't include Afghan evacuees or displaced Ukrainians. But still, these low refugee admissions are alarming. And then the last couple of items I have are related to green cards. So the USCIS has extended green card validity to 24 months for those who have applied to renew their green cards. So if you have filed an I-90 because your green card was expiring, you may have gotten a 12-month extension, but now USCIS has upped that number to 24 months. And so in the coming weeks, they are issuing new receipt notices that you'll get in the mail that indicate this 24-month extension. So if you need to show somebody proof of your status, your ability to work or travel, that paper is going to be super important for you. And then the last thing is that the diversity visa lottery registration opened up on October 5th. So the State Department began accepting online registrations for the next fiscal year on the 5th. And so any foreign nationals who wish to enter the lottery have until November 8th to file online. For next fiscal year, there will be 55,000 green card numbers available through random selection. It is a lottery, and the results will be announced in May of 2023. And so if you're selected, you would then submit your green card application starting on October 1st. The DV lottery is a little complicated though. So your lottery applications themselves have to meet strict requirements. So if you're interested in that, I would definitely suggest a consultation to fully explore that option. I'm just going to pause real quick and look at some of these questions. Okay, I'm noting some of the questions that I see here, and I will get to those. Let me then pivot to some of the questions that we received over the last couple of weeks. These are really, really good questions. I'm just gonna read off the first one. So 2 months ago, I filed my I-751 after being married for 2 years. Last week, my spouse asked for a divorce, but said they would wait until the green card is approved. Can I get divorced while the application is pending and still get my green card? Or should I take my spouse's offer to wait? Okay, so we could never advise you and would not advise you on if and when to, like, how to handle the divorce part. However, I will say, that choice is really up to you. But I will say that there is an option to move forward with an I-751 and waive that joint filing requirement. Um, you know, life happens and your immigration processes continue, but know that this is a really wonderful question that you should definitely explore with an attorney, because there's an option to move forward, but it really depends on the timing of your guys' decision, when you file, things like that, and what stage your case is at with the USCIS. Um, but yeah, please reach out so we can discuss this. I guess to give a little more context to that, in cases where the marriage has ended, um, the proof is different. So the point of the case is a little bit different now. So we are instead saying we go from trying to explain that the couple continues to be married and living together, and now the focus becomes, well, the marriage has ended, but the it was real while it existed. Um, okay. Next question. I am a permanent resident. Do I have to wait to become a citizen to legally change my name? No, you don't have to wait, but so the rules for changing your name, I believe, are state specific. It often involves a petition to change the name, and there's like a filing fee associated with it. So you are well within your right to do that if you want to. There's no reason you would have to wait. I would say the advantage of waiting until you're applying for citizenship is that the option to change your name is built into the citizenship application, and they just ask you, like, do you want to change it? And you say, yeah, if you want to. And then there's no extra fee. So you're paying the fee to apply for citizenship, but they don't tack on another fee just for you to change your name. I guess one thing to note, though, that if you are changing your name, your oath ceremony will likely be at a different location, because it'll be like at the federal courthouse, because a judge has to approve the name change. That's a really good question. Okay, here's another. My mother, who was a US citizen, sponsored my sister to come to the US. Sadly, my mother died 2 weeks ago. Does my sister need a new sponsor, and what happens to her priority date? First of all, I'm really sorry to hear that. That's terrible, and given everything you're going through, to have to think about this is really hard. But this unfortunately happens a lot, where especially in cases where a parent is sponsoring an adult child with really long wait times for a visa. Sometimes the petitioner passes away, and so there is an option for what we call humanitarian reinstatement. But the important thing that I would want to know is whether the petition that your mom filed was approved already, or if it hasn't been yet. Reinstatement is an option if the petition has already been approved. And so we would explain to the USCIS the circumstances of your mother's death, and then show just proof of her death. And then we can obtain a substitute sponsor. As you are probably aware, you need a financial sponsor to complete this process, and that was your mom. But now you need to select a new person. And the benefit of this option is that they kind of expand the pool of people that you can select to be your substitute sponsors. So it can include most relatives and in-laws even. And so this is definitely something you'd want to consult with an attorney about. Okay. Can you travel internationally while being a green card holder? Yes, you can, but there are definitely some things to be aware of, and I've run into this a lot over the last year, I think. So you can travel, that's your right, but you want to be careful that you're not abandoning your legal permanent resident status. And thinking ahead, if you want to eventually apply for citizenship, you want to make sure that you're remaining eligible for that. So abandoning your status is determined by a number of factors, and absences outside the US is just one of those factors. So there's no fixed time, there's no certain amount of time that will trigger a finding of abandonment, but some numbers that we keep in mind are 6 months and 1 year. So if you've been outside the US for more than 6 months and less than a year, the government can treat it like you're applying for admission again at the border. They can question you about your intention to actually live in the US. But where this mostly will come up is if you've been gone for at least a year. And so there are options still to either seek a reentry permit before you leave, like if you anticipate a long absence. But in some cases, we'd have to look at if you've already abandoned your status. So that's one thing. The other thing is that if you are interested in applying for citizenship, you have to maintain both what's called continuous and physical presence. Those are the requirements for citizenship. It's two of the requirements. And so in most cases, you have to show that you've been continuously residing in the US for 5 years or 3 years if you're married to a US citizen. And you have to show that you've been physically present in the US for 30 months over the last 5 years. And so if you have these longer absences of 6 months or a year, that can interrupt, both your continuous and physical presence. So things very important to keep in mind. You want to be counting those days and making sure that you're not traveling too often and too long. So, okay. Looking at the questions. Does the low income home energy assistance government program disqualify me from applying and then becoming a US citizen? I think so. I'll be honest with you, I'm not totally sure. Like I'd have to look at the specific rules of that program, but maybe in general, what you might be wondering is if I use public benefits, does that hurt me? And so in short, it kind of depends. Again, when they're looking at your eligibility for citizenship, they consider something called good moral character, which is this like weird term, but use of public benefits can sometimes contribute to that consideration, but it's not like a make or break factor. They will also consider whether you have criminal issues, whether you've paid your taxes over the years. And so in general, this is something to discuss with an attorney, and specifically, I would look at the terms of this program. Okay. Is there any update on processing times at USCIS? They don't currently reflect processing times. Sarah Lou 2992, you are so right. They really don't. In a perfect world, the USCIS website is supposed to update those processing times monthly. And you should be able to enter the form number, the service center that is indicated on your receipt notice, and it should tell you how many months you'll be waiting. I will say that processing times are just all over the place. They are varying wildly, and it's a challenge. It's a challenge for you guys as clients. It's a challenge for us as attorneys to be able to provide some like predictability. And I know that's tough to hear, but I think we're at a strange in between now where this current administration is prioritizing efficiency, and we are seeing that kind of applied inconsistently. So, for example, over the last year or so, I've been having a tough time trying to tell people when to expect their work permits or their travel cards, because sometimes they'll get them within 4 months and sometimes they won't get them at all. And USCIS will instead just issue you a green card. So that kind of eliminates the need for a work permit or a travel card. However, very recently, we are seeing work permits being issued within like a month or two, which is also quite strange. So there's not an update, but there are really frustrated attorneys and clients alike that are trying to push for more efficiency and more consistency in this area. But thank you for bringing that up. Okay. That's all the questions that I see. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone who joined. Okay. I know it's been a while since I've joined you on a live, so I'm happy to be here again. We will do this every month. We'll rotate through our team, so you'll get to meet more people from the McIntyre team. But if there's nothing else, I'll let you guys go. Oop. Can anything be done to get realistic processing times? I mean, no. You know, there's a telephone number and a chat option that I'd love to use to bother them, to get them to tell me more information. But we're really walking with like limited sight in this area and not really able to get specifics on wait times. That's probably not what you want to hear, but that's just kind of the reality of the moment. It's just very unpredictable. Although I would encourage you to ask your attorney what they're seeing, because we have a very wonderful Immigration Lawyers Association that is very active locally and nationally and internationally as well. We talk to each other all the time about what we're seeing. And so a lot of the estimates we're giving you are not just based on the USCIS predictions, but also the experience of ourselves and our colleagues. You're welcome. Okay. I don't see any more questions, so I guess we'll end it here. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye. I do want to end it. Ending it.